Did anyone shove drugs up their butt? Like, I've done a lot of drugs, but I've never put it in my butt. And
I have a feeling Carson did, but I did
I
not.
mean, I've
I've done
the
it a
weird
few
thing is
times,
that
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Psychedelic State Podcast. My name is Brett. I'm here with my friends Carson and Ashley.
what up?
What up?
And today we are going to be talking about a very hot topic on the psychedelic scene and something that has crossed over into the mainstream, microdosing. So everybody's heard about it. Everybody's talking about it. We're going to run through it a little bit, talk about what the possibilities are with it, talk about, we might even call bullshit on some parts of it. Who knows? We'll see. But overall, I mean, it seems to be a extremely hot topic at the mall where you can get God-related.
Can we talk about that? I want to,
Yeah.
instead of taking mushrooms, I want to get a My Chemical Romance shirt. Is that where I would go?
Hot topic? Yeah. We could just go with hot topic instead of the hot topic, microdosing.
We should. Have you seen how rebranded they are now? They're all like nice looking and they're not like scary little coven holes. Fucking
That
bullshit.
sucks because I was thinking like if I ever like really needed a job, that's like the last place that would hire me. But
The first place, actually.
yeah, the only place. But anyways, so getting into microdosing for those who are unfamiliar with it, which is very unlikely, microdosing is the taking of very small doses of psychedelics on a daily or a scheduled basis in order to, I guess the hypothesis behind it is that you're going to have trace amounts of these psychedelic chemicals running through your veins and attaching to your neurotransmitters kind of at all times, and it will give you energy and focus, and it's kind of like the pill in Limitless. So that being said, what do you guys think about microdosing? Carson, let's start with you.
I think that my personal experience with microdosing has been positive. I took a microdose today. I'm notorious, I guess, for microdosing improperly, and
Yeah,
today was no exception.
Notorious.
I threw a 0.3 gram cap on the scale, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's gonna be right, and ate that first thing this morning on an empty stomach, like with my coffee. And today's my Saturday, so I wasn't too concerned about whether or not I was gonna get like too high. All I really had to do today was some laundry and record a podcast.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, could be a good day to accidentally macrodose if it happens. But yeah, I find, depending on how big of a microdose it is and like how full or empty my stomach is, I usually feel a little bit of extra energy, a little bit like more focused, a little bit happier. Oftentimes I will forget that I took a microdose and will notice later that those are the effects, or that's the kind of day that I had, was just like I'm more present, I'm happier, more focused, got more energy. That seems to be sort of the standard for me. I know that there's a lot of research out there now that's sort of talking about whether or not that's just a placebo effect or whether it's actually the effect of the psychedelics. But
I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody's saying I'm feeling happier every day and I feel more energetic and I feel more focused, then even if it is a placebo, fuck it,
Yeah,
But-
it's super benefit, man.
It's kind of like I look at it kind of like CBD, which is like some people swear by it, some people like don't see what it does.
CBD
Like
is
hot-
cock and ball disease, right?
Yes,
Ball disease.
it's very. Oh yeah, we can do that.
I know
Actually,
that CBT is cockball torture.
oh, whoops, wrong one. Sorry, I got access to sound effects today.
Get your drums right, bro.
I know, man. My kit is set up all wrong.
Put
Ashley,
on
what's your experience as far as like microdosing?
I actually invented microdosing in the year 2000. I was microdosing cocaine during high school, like every day, and I found that it was very, very positive. I did schoolwork, very cool, and I was like pretty much the coolest kid in all of high school, so I think it worked wonders for me.
Well, the question
but
is like that. It has, that may actually be a thing.
microdosing is fantastic because done right, you get all of the positive effects of the drug without any of the negative side effects. That's ranging from impairment in just your day-to-day life, or psychological side effects like anxiety and stuff like that. If done right, I think that it's fucking excellent, but I feel like doing it right is the hard part. And now that they're starting to make pre-formulated mushroom gummies, microdoses, and even like Carson was saying, the acid microdoses, that's fucking awesome. I wish we had that down here, because like from experience, I had a friend who made a bunch of microdoses for me, and he took a little dropper and on all these Altoids, which were extremely hard to find in California. Altoids, for some reason, you can buy fucking pot in a store, but you couldn't find an Altoid. But anyways, we found them eventually. I found a bottle of Vicodin in them. I couldn't even find fucking Altoids. But anyways, made them for me, and like when they were good, they were perfect, and when they were bad, I would be fucking at work and I'd be like, damn, the sun looks sick right now, and then I would be like, oh fuck, that was not a microdose. But even then, it wasn't even that bad. It was just I was talking really, really weird shit to people that I was interacting with, and then good, fuck them, I probably entertained them.
What I'm curious, like what drugs you guys have microdosed. Like I've done, I'm actually a fan of microdosing, even stuff like weed or kratom, but LSD, psilocybin.
I mean,
I guess I sort of microdosed DMT last night smoking this changa, but I'm curious what else you guys have microdosed. You said cocaine, Ashley.
If we want to like really define a microdose is going to be not feeling the psychedelic effects of a psychedelic, for instance.
Well, it'd be just below the threshold dose. So when you start to feel the actual effect of the drugs are supposed to, make you feel just under that. So something that would be below your perception, which is, it could be really anything. Like you said, the kratom, I find that taking that in small amounts gives you excellent energy, and I like it better than taking it in large amounts. That's
me too.
And I feel like I've honestly gotten to that point with mushrooms. Like I take them way more frequently in microdoses than I do in like actual, full trippy fucking doses, because it's just I feel way better when I do. It gives you that energy, but in a more focused and creative way, and I dig it. I really, really like doing it.
I think this really points to just the idea of dosage in general when it comes to drugs. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, I think, at least for me, when I was younger and all that, it was all about taking like the big dose.
Yeah.
And, you look at things like anything from salvia to DMT to mushrooms to whatever it is, your experience is going to be heavily changed by the dose that you take. So, for instance, like looking at something like DMT, you could do it in ayahuasca form, which is going to be a lower dose with a longer experience. Changa form, which is going to be a slightly, probably more of a dose of DMT with also an MAOI, and then freebase DMT, which is very similar to like the idea of like a 10x extract or 20x extract of salvia, as opposed to just smoking the leaf purely. So it's
well, dude, can we talk about for a moment how fucking insane it was that 40x salvia was a thing that they sold to people like willingly?
Yeah, it's crazy.
at head
Yeah.
shops too, like just like, oh, grab this fucking
It's just like
40x
weed.
salvia shit, and people just,
Yeah,
oh my god, dude, have you ever
I
smoked
have,
40
dude. I
times
had the
salvia?
worst time of my life.
It is.
I don't think I've
What?
ever been as terrified in my life as I was it was in Modern Age, Gainesville, Florida, and I'd smoked salvia like in a bowl before, whatever. I thought it was cool. It made me feel kind of funny, but I was always smoking it with weed, so you couldn't really differentiate the effect. And then it had become illegal, and I'm like, you guys had so much salvia. Now that it's illegal, like, what the fuck did you do with it? And they're like, well, we still have it. Do you want to try some? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be fantastic. And I know now that they were fucking with me because they grabbed like the biggest fucking bong they possibly could have, loaded it up with the 40X, and I'm like hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And they're like, do you feel it? And all of a sudden, everything in the store turned into glass. And I was like still well enough aware that I am in a place that has a lot of glass. Like, that is a real ass thing. So I was so afraid to move that I would break something. And I'm sitting there and everyone's like, are you all right? And I found out later that I was really talking like fucking Will Ferrell in Old School when he got the trank dart. Like, I was like, yeah, dude, I'm okay, man. Let's go. I'm good to drive. And they're like, you're definitely not good to drive. And I'm like, what? Why? Not me, man. I'm great to drive. And they're like, because listen to your fucking voice, dude. There's no way you can't even fucking talk right. Like, you definitely can't get into a car. And that shit, that was like, I can't imagine terrible fucking experience on a drug. And it was because, they gave me the most I could possibly have. And that's why, like, dosing is fucking important, man. I'm sure that people have great times when salvia is taken correctly. I'm not sure, but the fucking Hamilton Morris did it in his show the proper way in like a fucking tea, or he chewed the leaves or something like that. And
he chewed the leaves.
Acquitted, yeah.
And that's fucking
and it was beautiful.
Great.
He had like an amazing experience that was like super like transcend. It was more akin to a mushroom experience or something like that, where it's like it's not so much at once. Like, there is this threshold where you take too much. It's like the classic scene in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. You know what I mean? You took too much, man. You took too much.
Too much.
Like,
too
that's
much.
it. And really, that's what it comes down to. As humans, it seems like we're just trying to like max out this shit. It's like going from like this shitty weed that used to be around in like the, from early days up to the 90s to like dabs now, or going from cocaine to crack, or going from this, like, it's just like turning these things into the highest powered extract possible. So getting back to microdosing,
like even like heroin to like fentanyl or carfentanil.
Yeah,
and it's like getting back to like the idea of microdosing is going in the other direction, where it's saying like, all right, let's not use these just to like get super fucked up or super feel a certain way, but to use them a bit more subtle. And, like the biggest one right now, I would say, is probably mushroom microdosing. And like right now, I think, it's a normal microdose, from what my research is, and don't take my word for it, do your own research, disclaimer, but 0.1 to 0.3 grams of mushrooms, preferably grinded up and put into pill form in order to, I do believe that there's probably like veins of psilocybin running through a mushroom, and it's better to mix all that shit up before it's like shaking up the like orange juice before you drink it.
I thought you were going to say some cool Southern shit like, it's like when you shake up the old crawfish ball, you got to put the paprika on there, boy. And I was like, that's sick, Brett. I love when you say that.
Well, let's just pretend I said that. So, that being said, there's that, and then there's the idea of not only, for different people, you're going to get a different reaction based on dosage. So you'd probably want to start at the lower end and work your way up until, because like what you're talking about, Carson, with 0.3 is actually like a 10th of a fairly strong dose of mushrooms. So, and when you get to 0.1, you're at like a 30th of a fairly long. So there's a lot of difference between 0.1 and 0.3 in a microdose based on many elements. But in addition to that, there's also this idea that Paul Stammet has come along with and been a big proponent of, and from what I understand is in the process of putting a patent on, is the Stammet Stack, which is a combination of a microdose of psilocybin, lion's mane mushroom, and also niacin. So it's these three things put together into this one, which he claims gives you kind of the best benefits for this. And within that stack, I don't know what his is, probably closer to the lower side of it. I'm not sure exactly. I do have some information here, but the idea is,
I think it was
it's like between 0.1 and 0.3. Then you take a lion's mane. Like I have some here that I was using, which this one is 2 capsules, servings. I don't even know how much is in here, but anyways, you take like a pill of lion's mane and then one of niacin, and the lion's mane is supposedly supposed to be like a brain food for humans.
It's like a nootropic or nootropic, whatever you call it.
Supposedly it produces more nerve growth factors, which are responsible for the production, growth, and maintenance of neurons in the brain.
It's also supposed to be great for inflammation of the brain and the limbic system too. So it's helping. It's like antioxidant for your mental function and central nervous system.
There are actually lots of different microdose companies with different formulas, especially psilocybin ones anyways, that have like, I had one for a while that had chaga mushroom in it, which is like anti-cancer causing, and it had reishi mushroom and lion's mane as well as psilocybin mushrooms, all in the same microdose capsule. And those ones are really good. I always found I had a great day whenever I microdosed that particular brand.
Well, I think it's like a weird.
I'm not going to shout them out because they're not paying us.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a weird thing because, starting with some sort of stack, I think can lead to some issues for certain people. If somebody has some sort of reaction to something other than the psilocybin in the stack, like niacin, for some, I don't know if somebody can have a reaction to niacin, but niacin is supposedly helps to get everything through. It like opens your kind of the system that's moving all this stuff through it.
Your butthole.
So it's it works as a flushing agent and causes vasodilation, expansion of the butthole.
Yeah, I think it just like
expansion of the blood vessels in your butthole. So
sounds
and
like
you can also
Friday night, baby.
I don't know if anybody's actually putting the Stammet Stack in their butthole, but I heard it hits you faster though.
You guys ever
At least that was the story that everybody said back in the day.
Tried that in this conversation? Anyone shoved drugs up their butt? Like, I've done a lot of drugs, but I've never put it in my butt. And
I have a feeling Carson did, but I did not.
I mean,
I've done it.
Weird thing is that, like,
that's becoming your like fucking famous quote.
Weird
We're gonna
thing.
make a shirt. I've done it a few times.
Like the
Carson
thing is that I love drugs and I love to put things in my butt, but I've never mixed them together because I find sometimes when you take two things that you really like and you put them together, one begets you from enjoying the other one. It's like, I remember someone telling me a story about going to Vietnam and there was a strip club and the girl was smoking a joint in her pussy. And he's like, this is like my two favorite things, making it so I can't enjoy either of my favorite things. It was like Robin Williams. I don't know. It sounds like a Robin Williams joke.
I mean,
well, I feel like there's a 2023 goal in there for you.
I'm down
there,
dude.
Ashley.
It's tomorrow, 2023, because I'm fucking let's get it.
I think we're already in it,
Brett.
but
I got some news for you. You're gonna have to help me when we're done.
all right. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So this idea of the stack is like kind of a weird thing because again, if you have like, it's like starting two drugs at once. Like it's a really terrible way to go about some sort of like trial of anything, is to do more things than one at a time, because you're not going to be able to. So for instance, like my personal thought on if you want to microdose mushrooms would be to start with psilocybin mushrooms, as that is the main ingredient that you're going for. And then, maybe do that for 2 weeks and then add the lion's mane and do that for 2 weeks and then add the niacin and see where it goes from there. Because anywhere along the way, you could have some sort of reaction that could throw you off. So that's why personally, I don't subscribe too much to these stacks. I think like my own experience with the Stammet Stack was that something was a little off for me, and I stopped taking it. And then it was like, well, what was it? Like, I had no idea, because I love fucking mushrooms, you know what I mean? But I don't know if I had a reaction to the other thing. So now I'm going to be restarting in the way that I'm talking about. But, I mean, there's going to be a lot of things brought to market. And obviously at the end of the day, you want to read the ingredients, but I would say like niacin is going to get it through your system more. It's like, just try it without fucking niacin first.
I think that that's
my thoughts.
I think like one of the big
I'm not trying to be a hater on Paul Stamets. We did see Paul Stamets at Wonderland, and he seemed like a very nice and intelligent fellow. And I'm not trying to hate on him, but
can't believe that you fucking hate Paul Stamets, man. You used to love him so much, and now you hate him today. That's like so fucking crazy and fucked up.
That's fucked up, man.
Dude,
I hate myself.
What a fickle son of a bitch you are. Anyways, I think it's something. I'm going to say something serious for 1 second, and then I'm never going to do it again. So listen to me for now.
All right.
Okay. I think that a big problem in the world, especially, social media marketing and everything, is that everything is marketed to you as this cure-all for whatever ails you. Like, are you depressed? Are you fucking foggy? Are you this? And they'll sell you a million different ways. It's because you have too much fucking lactar shit in your poop hole, or what you're like, you have, you're depressed because you're not taking enough fake Adderall that's made from some fucking chemical.
I believe they call that snake oil.
Yeah, dude. I tried some snake oil, man. It's delicious. I put it on all of my.
Put it on some pasta.
It's the Mediterranean diet, snake oil. But
that's the thing, It's like there's so many.
The thing is, the thing that people need to realize is that, like, stuff out with you, everyone's different, man. Like, there's so many things out there that can help you in certain ways, but nothing is going to cure you of everything. You got to really be mindful of what you're putting into your body, and also what the intention is that you are taking these things for. Like, you can really do some fucking damage to yourself by taking all this crazy shit. I know me personally, when I fucking quit doing dope, I was like on every fucking vitamin you could possibly be, because I was used to getting high all the time, and that was like my replacement. Like, I'm going to wake up, take B6, L-tyrosine, L-arginine. I'm going to go to the fucking gym, take a workout stack. It's like, dude, what the fuck, man? Obviously getting addicted to something healthier is great, but like, be mindful, and listen to what your body's telling you. And that's me being serious, and now I'm done. We'll talk about buttholes again.
I think that's I think that brings up a good point, and that's what a lot of the like more recent microdosing studies have sort of come to the conclusion of, like, is that microdosing has sort of hit the mainstream as this cure-all sort of panacea for ailments from everything like depression all the way to like, lack of motivation to you name it. Like, microdosing is gonna help it, or like according to common culture. But when it's tested, it doesn't really always line up like that. And there was actually I brought this up prior to there's a this is on PubMed, like, so it's like a well-researched study, and it had this article is on 2 different studies, but at the end it was talking about how I'll just fucking read it. This was an exploratory research that investigated people's experience of and attitudes towards microdosing. Study 1 showed that in the short term, microdosing led to an immediate boost across a range of psychological variables, but that these effects were mostly not sustained over multiple days. Longer term, we found evidence that microdosing led to improved mental health, altered attentional capacities like reduced mind wandering and increased absorption, and increased neuroticism. The second study showed that amongst people who were interested in microdosing, there are strongly held beliefs that microdosing can impact a wide range of psychological variables. A substantial majority of media reports on microdosing present the practice in glowing and positive terms. This may have led to a perception of microdosing as a general panacea that is able to improve virtually all aspects of an individual's life. It is not clear the degree to which these expectations influence individuals' interpretation and reports of their microdosing experiences.
Well, I think this compares very closely to like when CBD first came out. You know what I mean? And everybody was fucking taking CBD and rubbing it on their bodies and bathing in it and fucking putting it in their gas tank in their car and getting better gas mileage. And it was just like, hold on a second here. You know what I mean? Like fucking, like there's no way in hell that this is like not doing half the shit that you guys are saying. And the problem with that is that the real effects, which may be extremely subtle, get left on the cutting room floor by most people because they start saying like, oh, this is bullshit. You know what I mean? So it's like over marketed. And I think that's one thing about microdosing in general is that don't have these huge expectations for it. Take it like you take your fucking Flintstones vitamin when you were a kid every morning and just go about your day. And if you do start to see like a fucking positive change in your life, wonderful. But it's like, don't bank on it. You know what I mean? Like it's the marketing is kind of absurd with CBD, and you saw the shops pop up and this and that and the other, and everybody swearing by it, and it's like, like I get it, and there may be something to it, but at the same time, once it's overhyped and overmarketed, it really takes the focus off the actual net positive that can come from it. So I'm interested to hear do they have in that study, like the actual dosage and what they were giving them and all that, and how many days they were taking it in a row versus off?
Yeah, it's all there, but it's very detailed because what they had done in this study was actually allowed people to microdose what they wanted, and then they submitted their own
shout out WTW
product for testing.
Yeah.
So like some people were microdosing LSD, some people were microdosing mushrooms. They threw out some of the studies because some people were macrodosing.
Well, that sounds like
some of the reports,
and
then people were
shout out WTW again.
to be honest,
and also like what they had done is they had people making their own placebo pills, and then they sent them in and they packaged them to the researchers packaged them. So only the researchers knew whether they were getting a placebo or not, but they were all created, their doses were created, and the placebo doses were created by the study participants themselves.
Study is this shit, dude. God damn. What? Well,
this was
I don't know, man.
I think Budweiser
dude.
fucking paid for this fucking Anheuser-Busch funded this study.
I'm reading this. I'm reading this off of like the National Library of Medicine,
don't get me wrong.
It's a PubMed fucking study.
But at the end of the day, anybody can publish a paper, in a scientific journal. It's just a matter of like, that's when it gets peer reviewed and people start to look at it and say, hold on, there's holes in this shit.
Joking.
Who funded
the study
this shit?
sounds
In the
sick. I was
study-
just kidding, Carson. I'm sorry, okay?
Well,
I hear
in
that.
the study, they do talk about how it's very like difficult to do these kinds of studies for several different reasons, not the least of which being public perception of microdosing is so overhyped at this point that anyone going into the study is expecting positive results from it. And, and trying to mitigate that factor alone was really challenging, which they talked quite a bit about in this study. Like, the study is fucking long, man. Like, it's really long, and it's the biggest study. It had like the biggest study on microdosing out there at this point anyways, and it was almost 200 study participants, and it was over a fairly lengthy period of time. Like, it's, you know, we can maybe put a link to it when we post the podcast. We could put a link to it and people can read it for themselves and see what they think of it and whatever, because it's way too in-depth for us to like really dive deep into.
Can we
it
put a disclaimer and say that I don't support reading at all? I just want to put that out there. Fuck books. What's up? Shout out movies.
You know, I have something up here by a website called the Microdosing Institute, which is also recommends before trying the Stammet Stack, try a microdosing cycle of 4 to 6 weeks with just psilocybin first, which provides a baseline to help you understand if you get enhanced benefits by when you add the stack. And it also helps you find your sweet spot or optimal dose of psilocybin mushrooms or truffles. As far as the Stammet Stack is, it is 0.1 to 0.2 is what is recommended. 500 to 1,000 milligrams of lion's mane, 50 to 200 milligrams of a flushing variety of niacin. And it would be days 1 through 4 on, days 5 to 7 off for 4 weeks, and then stop for 2 to 4 weeks and then start again. And the reason you're doing that is just to not build a tolerance to the psilocybin over time, because over time you will, I mean, obviously with mushrooms, you build a tolerance pretty quickly. But with these smaller amounts, I guess you can go like 5 on, 2 off day-wise for 4 weeks, and then you should stop for 2 to 4 weeks. Let your tolerance kind of
take a little tolerance break,
go down, and then restart it again. But, you know, so other things, you know, that I think, like for me, for instance, mushrooms are obviously the big one, and there's plenty of stuff out there. I think that's going to be a big thing on the market. It's going to be the next CBD.
Have you all ever
as far as
tried microdosing MDMA before?
No, but that's one of the things I wanted to talk about.
I tried it once, like a few weeks, probably a month or two ago. I was kind of just like on a variety of things, like just kind of like when the world just see the good stuff in it. And I took like a little crystal, and probably like people aren't gonna be able to see it, but this like tiny little of pure MDMA, and it was fucking rad, man. I had such a great night. Like, it was just a pure self-love. I ordered like fucking Domino's, man. I didn't care if I was getting the best pizza. I just like wanted to. I feel like, honestly, if I had Nintendo 64 and fucking GoldenEye set up, I would have ordered Domino's, played Nintendo 64, and just pretended that I was like 10 years old again and had no issues. Yeah. And like
pretended like it was 1999.
Dude, it was so freaking nice, man. I fell in love with myself, and I just felt it was just a really pleasant evening.
It sounds like you took a little more than a threshold dose there.
No, obviously. Man. Like I've taken it a bunch of times, and I didn't even feel warm. Like, that's my main thing is with MDMA is if I'm getting high, I am sweating balls. I run hot, baby, you know? And if I get high on drugs, I'm fucking sweating. Like, that's the number one thing. But I sweat a lot anyways, so it's easy for me to trick people. Like, if you see me and I'm sweating, doesn't necessarily mean I'm on drugs, but there's a good, like, 60% chance, you know? Or I'm just, like, doing anything. Yeah. Sometimes I fucking eat food and I sweat, and I feel, like, so fat. I feel so out of shape. I'm, like, eating a food, and then I just eat to the point where I'm sweating, and I'm like, gross son of a bitch, dude. Like, run a mile, Ashley. What's going on with you?
Happens to the best. That's what happens when fucking you have access to things like GoPuff.
Oh my god, don't even get me.
I've been ordering off of way too much. I'm about to fucking delete that shit from my phone. Not shouting out GoPuff.
Shout out GoPuff, dude. Shout out GoPuff.
No,
dude,
fuck GoPuff.
They have little ice cream bars, and the fucking flavoring inside of the ice cream is cake batter, and then the outside of it is fucking sugar cookies, dude. Like, what the fuck? Thank you, GoPuff. Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't know what GoPuff is, it's in select cities right now, but we have it here, and it's basically a warehouse full of candy and sugary snacks and drinks, tampons, they
CBD.
have alcohol, and you get it delivered to your house in like
Dude,
5 minutes. And it's really not even that crazy expensive either. It's just like having a convenience store at your fingertips. It's fucked up, man. Like, I've been getting some fucked up shit from it lately.
Dude,
and I'm sad.
I don't know if you guys know this, but this is fucking amazing. This is how I found out about GoPuff. GoPuff sells sex toys too, and they had a sale on sex toys, and it was amazing, dude. They had butt plugs for like a set of them for like $5, dude. Like good quality silicone butt plugs. And then I was like, how funny is it? All the bags are sealed, but this was the one time I really wanted my sealed bag to be unsealed so they could look into the mind of me. It's like butt plugs, a fucking penis pump, and then like Ben & Jerry's, some frozen pizzas. Like, this guy is staying at home and he's having a fucking grand old time. This time, this guy didn't microdose MDMA. He macrodosed it, and he loves himself, and he's treating himself to whatever he likes tonight. And I live like 5 minutes away from a GoPuff factory, or like a GoPuff. I think of it as Willy Wonka's factory. I live 5 minutes next to the magical GoPuff factory, and they bring me food and treats so much. And I'm a good boy. I deserve fucking treats, man. And I love it. Like, I feel good right now. Thank you guys.
Well, anybody who's out there who wants to check out GoPuff, you can, if you're on YouTube, you can scan my code right here, and I'll get a bunch of money for it.
I'm using my phone to film here, else I do the same thing. I want GoPuff points.
Yeah. It's crazy. They give you like, I don't know. Anyways, fuck GoPuff. And
we derailed the whole episode, man. That's how good that shit is. We're like, fuck microdosing. Let's talk about GoPuff.
And I think like another thing to talk about with microdosing is that like microdosing is, I mean, I guess there's two ways of looking at it. There's taking a very small dose of something, but that just seems like taking a drug at a small dose. And then there's taking it over the course of days and weeks and months and all that kind of stuff. I think another really good one to bring up that isn't really being talked about that I've seen too much is ketamine. I think that is probably one of the best things that you can microdose as far as for anxiety, depression, things like that. You know, it's obviously the ketamine clinics are probably doing like what's the equivalent to whatever the equivalent to a 150 milligram insufflated dose would be from what I've read on the research. But at the end of the day, you could also like microdose like 25 to 50 milligrams, and you're not going to get this crazy psychedelic fucking trip. You might feel a little weird for a little bit, but it's like nothing. And you get the effects like the next day and the day after that and the day after that. And that I believe has so much more potential as a microdosing, and they've actually created a product for it. That's where S-ketamine comes in, which is ES-ketamine. It's a brand.
The nasal spray.
The nasal spray that is actually at market now. It's very expensive, but it's because they put a patent on the S isomer in ketamine, but supposedly it's like a thing.
It's also like, according to the research, like it doesn't actually have any better effects on depression and than placebo effect. They actually, our ketamine, like the R isomer of ketamine has higher score on the antidepressive effects of it, but it's harder to make. So that it's kind of strange that they've ended up patenting and marketing S-ketamine for it, even though the clinical trials don't really actually show that good of efficacy for it, it's kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons maybe, and I'm not familiar, I've heard varying stories from so many sources saying, oh, S-ketamine's the better one, R-ketamine's the better one, Racemic's the better one. But at the end of the day, one thing that we do know is that it's very difficult to make ketamine in large quantities. It's like it's not made in the U.S. at all. It's right now mainly made in China. And they're not sharing the secrets of how they make it in bulk. Like there's some sort of trick at the end that allows you to do it that from all the things that I've read, and actually Hamilton Morris did an episode about it where he tried to find a place that made it. He went to India and found out that it's not being made in India, at least from his investigation, and they're getting it from China. And they actually made, him and the other chemist he works with, Jason Wallach, made ketamine in a lab, but obviously only very small amounts. It was a very complex chemistry, and they, even he said, like, I wish you would have found out, because there's some trick that allows you to do it in larger quantities, and it's like people just can't figure it out. So it's one of those weird things that it's possible that S-ketamine is easier to make, and somebody's figured that out. But the main reason why S-ketamine is being used is because it's a patented drug, and regular ketamine is not. So it's just an isolated. It's basically, it's just a half of what ketamine usually is. Although the racemic mix is usually not 50-50, but it is a little bit of.
You know what we haven't said in a long time, Carson? Fuck capitalism. That was like our thing for the first episodes. So yeah, fuck capitalism, dude.
Fuck
also
capitalism. Yeah, man. If it wasn't for capitalism, racemic ketamine would be everywhere, and it would be fucking glorious, and it would be what was being used for like treatment-resistant depression and major depressive disorder. Because it is extremely effective, especially compared to S and R ketamine.
I'd be really interested,
but because you can't make any fucking money on racemic ketamine, and capitalism is just like, if you can't make money, it's not worth anything.
I don't know how. I'm interested to hear from somebody at a ketamine clinic. We did interview two gentlemen from the Los Angeles ketamine clinics when we were at, shout out Sam and Steven from Los Angeles ketamine clinics. We got to hang out with them for a bit at Wonderland. They were extremely cool guys. And what I would love to talk to them on. Steven said he'd be willing to come on the podcast and talk. So I would love to hear what they're using in their place, because at the end of the day, the drug isn't what they're making the money on. From a drug manufacturer's perspective, it's one thing, but from a therapy perspective, the treatment is what people are paying for. So they could be using a racemic mix of ketamine just as easily if it's yielding better results, and just learning a little bit more about what is going on in modern day ketamine infusion clinic, what they're using, how they're using it, and all that kind of stuff. Because, they're not, that's not a microdose when you go there. You are getting, you're getting a what would equate to probably 150 milligrams of crystal or powder or whatever you want to call it, a dose, which is a very high dose. It's like, it's not ridiculously
not a very high
but
dose,
it's a psychedelic dose of fucking ketamine. Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things where, like, but I also feel like if you, you can maybe take like a 25 to 50 milligram dose every, but that's the thing, because then you get into this idea of there are issues with taking ketamine over a long period of time where it starts to deteriorate the inner wall of your bladder, and that's all stuff that has to be taken into consideration as well. But I will tell you, like, my own experience with when we...
Brett, 1 second. Before we say that, I have a really cute segue for this story. You know what my favorite side effect of microdosing ketamine is? Making a real nice friend. Wow. Brett and I, that's how we first started. We knew each other, but we first started really hanging out all the time, doing microdose sessions of ketamine weekly. And it was a fucking huge bonding thing. And we literally we talked about a lot of stuff, and it was fantastic, man. And we wouldn't be having this podcast today if I didn't get to make my lovely friend Brett. And I love you, Brett.
I love you too, man. And it was like, and I really saw benefits
100%.
From those sessions. And it's one of those things where it's like, I do believe that in regard to anxiety, specifically anxiety, I would say, is where it has a real, and from what Sam and Steven told us when they interviewed him, like the biggest thing that they're treating with extremely positive results
Suicidality.
is like suicidality. Yeah, like, and it's something that can nearly immediately reverse. That's the beauty of ketamine in general. It's just this idea that it's like it's not like an SSRI and that you have to take it for 30 days before you see a difference. It's immediate. And, you know, people have tried it with OCD, with depression, with anxiety, to varying levels of results. It doesn't work for everybody, but for those it works for, it's radically changed lives. And man. I am interested in the idea. I'm really interested in the idea of that on a microdose level, maybe even once a week or something like that, just to see what the because that's what we were doing. And it seemed like to have.
I feel like, in all honesty,
it's weird because it's hard to tell. But I look back on it and say,
in all honesty, I feel like
really
I still feel better today because of that. But just because, like, we did a lot of like diving into like cycles that we were running in our lives that were not benefiting us, and just like being able to talk and feeling a little bit more free and feeling the effects of like the relaxation, the openness, and the afterglow, man. Like it's such a strange drug because it's one that you take and you feel great the next day. You feel better than you would normally, man. It's like, and I think that with all of this microdosing in general, like if there's a possibility that it helps fucking people in the world, it's worth looking into, man. If it keeps someone from fucking killing themselves, one person is too many people to kill themselves, man. One person is like, the world is a fucked up place, but like we have the tools, we have each other, and we make it a world where like one person feeling the pain of all this shit should be too much, and we should look into every avenue to like help each other, you know. And we have these tools that, man, if the fucking stupid ass government hadn't been fucking such little pussy narcs about it, man, we would have been researching this shit back in the 60s and 70s. But we had a hiatus for fucking 40 years, and now we're back on our game, like, you know, way behind. But let's not fuck up again. Let's fucking move forward and do some shit right.
And that's really like the thing with all this is that, again, it's like not everything's going to be for everybody. It's the same thing with like a drug like an SSRI. You know, it's not for everybody, but it has helped a lot of people. And this is kind of the same thing. And I would compare the two as being somewhat similar. I mean, we can look at like side effects and say like, all right, well, there's different side effects of this, different side effects of that. But at the end of the day, like, you're not getting this full psychedelic introspective experience through microdosing. You're getting effects of similar to something like an SSRI or a nootropic or something that just kind of adds a little bit more to your maybe focus or a bit less anxiety throughout the day or this or that. So it's you know, it's a whole other realm of this shit where it's more like a vitamin than it is like this, where psychedelics are as a tool for self-exploration and all that kind of shit, which is a whole other level with, you know, therapy and all that kind of shit.
I think that's a good segue too, though, to talking about whether or not it's more effective to do like, you know, 2 or 3 microdoses a week or a macro dose every month or every other month or once a quarter or something like that, you know, where, because the studies are not really conclusive at this point about whether or not microdosing has much benefit at all, or whether or not it's more placebo effect that's causing enhanced mood, enhanced focus, you know, that kind of stuff, decreased anxiety. Like I actually have a study right here that says like the results of microdosing, according to this study, was that microdosers scored lower on measures of dysfunctional attitudes and negative emotionality, and higher on wisdom, open-mindedness, and creativity when compared to non-microdosing controls. So like, those are pretty positive effects according to that study. Other studies saying that those effects are basically caused by placebo effect, which may or may not be true. Like the jury's still out on that. But when you think about macrodosing stuff, say like macrodosing ketamine, macrodosing mushrooms, macrodosing LSD,
DMT,
macrodosing mescaline, DMT, I think that, those types of experiences, while they're not like an SSRI where they're, increasing, giving you a better mood for a day or two, and you have to sort of top up all the time in order to like keep with those positive effects. Those types of experiences sort of radically shake up your worldview, or like remove the ego, like have ego dissolution. So when you come back to the body and back to your regular sober self, you're left with a new perspective of the world. You're like, oh, wow, like I'm, like those studies with terminally ill cancer patients, they're like, I'm not scared to die
I don't
anymore.
think that
I'm like at peace with the fact that I'm
mutually exclusive,
gonna die.
like I think that
I don't know, like
they don't, but at the same time, it's like, that's where they both kind of fit into this whole framework, is that, a terminally ill cancer patient is probably not going to see much benefit from microdosing.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's with everything though. You got to look at like
scenario.
what benefits you the most. But I think personally, like I love to take a macrodose months and just kind of like explore myself and where my mind is at. But I think that on the day-to-day, microdosing is fucking excellent, man, because like for me, it's better than taking an Adderall or, doing something that is inherently unhealthy for your body. You take these little mushrooms or it's a little bit of acid, and like personally, my experience with microdosing, especially LSD, has been like, in addition to getting great energy, you feel happier and like more open and loving, whereas you kind of like a fucking jerk. At least me, I'm like, really, I'm not normally a jerk, but if I fucking take Adderall, man, I'm like nitpicky and I'm kind of unpleasant to be around, which is sick because I love to like be I love to every once in a while be a jerk because it's like fun, but I would like to be a jerk without drugs. I would like to just be a sober jerk. Be like, hey, freaking, like, stop doing that thing that I don't like, you freaking asshole.
Well, at the end of the day, that's the question. It's like, we're never going to really find a replacement for becoming a better person. I think that and I don't want anybody to really think like, because I understand what you're saying, Ashley, and it makes perfect sense. And I'm a perfect example of that as somebody with OCD who takes an SSRI in order to manage the issues that I have with OCD, and it works very well for me. And it's something that I do. But, there's something to be said of maybe there's something that I need to look at with my OCD. Maybe there's something that I need to work on. So it's these two sides of that coin. And then once we get back to like the capitalist look at all this shit, at the end of the day, microdosing is a way easier sell than a full dose of mushrooms.
Well, that's one of the things I was going to say.
Number two, it's way more profitable because you're selling a much smaller dose for probably the same price once you put it in a bottle form full of pills. So you're maximizing profits on a very small amount of something. And then on top of that, it's I had another point.
Well, I think that Ashley, one of the things that we're kind of skipping over, you touched on it for a second, is the fact that it is easier to convince somebody to take a microdose. And I think that, like, from my experience of talking to a few friends of ours that have like just started microdosing, have never used psychedelics, like they're more comfortable with that big mushroom experience soon, and like maybe that is like I'm going to use gateway drug in a fucking positive light. Maybe that is the gateway to helping people have these beautiful fucking mind expanding experiences, is taking it and being like, listen, man, You're not going to fucking cut your dick off and jump out of the window. You're a girl. You don't even have a dick to begin with.
Nobody does that on psychedelics.
The guy who did it on PCP said he wanted to do it anyways, you know, and also he probably smoked it.
I want to, you know what? I want to make I listened to that episode and I think we were talking about different people. I think you're talking about
the dude from who claimed to be in the Wu-Tang Clan, and when he jumped out of the window, Wu-Tang Clan was like, "We don't know that motherfucker."
Right. I'm talking about it. I'm talking about a totally different guy. This was in California, and he like got dosed with PCP without his knowledge, and he also could have been himself. But again, it wasn't. It was said to be.
I'm never taking PCP.
It was said to be a story in the media, and it turned out not to be. So. I think like looking at all of this, and I want to really end on a positive note because I think this discussion has been really productive in looking at all angles of this. And we're not just telling everybody that microdosing is the fucking answer to all their problems and this is the next coming of fucking Jesus. And that was a weird sentence to say, huh? The next coming of
what are you doing to my Lord
Jesus.
And Savior?
All right, nobody has to fuck Jesus. Anyways, like the idea that there is a very small amount of this stuff that masses of people are willing to take, and all of a sudden we got psilocybin running through the systems of a large swath of the population that wasn't before. To me, no matter what, that's a fucking net positive. So, that's where I'm like, I'm all for it in that sense. It's like, it's almost like putting it in the water at that point. You know what I mean? Like everybody's getting like a little fucking, if a lot of people have this small dose of psilocybin or LSD or whatever in their system, does this microdose create a macro effect on society? And I think maybe discussing that is kind of, what do you guys think on that? Do you guys
agree with you? I think that
was because
I was going to say
that was a pretty great sound.
I didn't want to
that was so
anything,
cool, Brad. I love that.
I thought it was pretty good too.
You're so friggin' awesome, dude.
I do agree with you.
Thank you, Ashley.
I do think that the more people are taking even microdoses of psychedelics, the better. That's not going to be a negative. There aren't going to be negative effects on society. I don't think
so either.
I think that it is only going to enhance people's lives, enhance the collective like culture, the collective experience. I think that it's going to be a positive thing. Like the more people get into using psychedelics with good intentions, which I believe microdosing really,
well, I mean, I feel like people want to better themselves. They want to. If people are looking inward, that's a great start. For so long, think of how society has fucking shunned that, especially among dudes. Like men were like, "Oh, you tough motherfucker! Oh, you're crying? Ha ha! You probably have like a disease. Don't talk about it. Fuck you." And it's like, dude, if the fact that we're dudes and we're able to talk about it, feeling sad and feeling unhappy and healthy ways to fucking fix that, that's beautiful, man. We've already come so far, and let's just keep on fucking trucking, baby. Let's go to the future and help each other. And like, I can't wait till we have Flintstone fucking microdoses and kids are taking it. No, I'm just joking. But I can't wait for the future where it's readily available and people who want to possibly help themselves are able to, because I think that's what the world needs.
I agree. I think like it's better for people to be taking microdoses of psychedelics than pharmaceuticals that cause side effects that require other pharmaceuticals to mitigate,
instead of not taking psychedelics at all, like it's better to be taking, what I mean?
Instead of not taking psychedelics at all. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like, get on it.
And I agree 100%, man. And I think that's a great place to end because it's I think it really sums it up. It's like, and that's really like at the end of the day, it can't hurt. And, you know, if it does help, that if it gives you a net positive in your life, that's a beautiful thing. Again, I would say like just go into it without high expectations and stick with it for a while and see what happens. You know, it's not an overnight thing. It's something that may take some time to happen. Do your research. Go look at the Stammet Stack. Look at the research. Again, like you got to do your research when you're doing any sort of microdosing and make sure that you're doing it correctly. I've met some people recently actually that have been, they're not necessarily sure what they're doing, but they're doing it. And, you know, that can lead to a bad experience that was unexpected. So make sure if you're getting into this and you are unfamiliar with the psychedelic terrain, that you do set your expectations low and start low. You know, start at the lower end of the spectrum, work your way up until you get, you know, to a place
it's like you're
that
cooking a nice
works for
brisket,
you,
baby.
the sweet spot.
Low and slow.
So there you go.
Oh wait, I got to do the
And with
OnlyFans
that,
thing.
I think we'll
My
wrap
new
this one up.
OnlyFans is a micro
Thank-
OnlyFans. It's like my
Okay.
regular OnlyFans, but teeny tiny. Yeah,
But you have a micro penis.
yeah, I wish.
Yeah, I was gonna say with a tiny penis.
All right. So if you have questions for us or any sort of comments, feedback for episodes, ideas, things like that, you can reach out to us anytime at Psychedelic State Podcast at gmail.com. Also check us out on Instagram, Psychedelic State _. We have a YouTube channel with news reports. We have a upcoming mini documentary that we did at Wonderland Miami last year, and all sorts of good stuff on there. And until
Brett's
next
got an album
time,
coming out. Come on, Brett,
wish
plug
you
your
safe
album real
travels.
quick, dude. Chairweiner, album coming out soon. Music to Smoke DMT too. Love that guy. Love you
thank you,
guys.
Ashley. Yeah, it's true. I do. Peace.
Peace.